Hey all, Taves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and we are back in Zimba Zoo. Well, if you've been following Zimba for a while, you might be looking at this going, hang on, what? There's loads of things missing. So I have gone back in time a little bit. So this is quite an old save actually. This is probably just after I added the flamingos in. So this whole episode has been in the works for quite a long time, mainly because the elephants are a big deal and I wanted to make sure I was getting it right. But I have been working on this and then stopping and doing other things for quite a while. So the lake is all missing, the red crown cranes are missing, all the market and everything's missing. Obviously that will all come back. This elephant habitat was built really early on. I've just passed my 4,000 hour mark on playing Planet Zoo, and I think I probably built this within the first few hundred, let's say. But it's been quite cool to come back and see where this started from, because I thought I did an all right job with this habitat, but seeing where I'm at now with it and seeing where we get to by the end of this episode, hopefully you all agree, like, things have massively improved. Not only have we got better pieces and new items to use in our build, but I think I've got better generally as a builder in the game. So I thought I just would spend a little bit at the beginning just showing you what this was like, so you can see the contrast by the time we get to the end of it. So yeah, I did that. There were two sort of yards. I had this inside building. Again, I was all pretty happy with this. I still quite like some of this, and some of the core components of the habitat have stayed, that you'll see even in the new build. But what I kind of decided to do was not only like change all the inside of it, but and change the habitat overall, but give it some sort of aging and some weatheredness. So it looks like it's older and stuff. So you'll see that when we get to the new build. Flamingos, I think, was like the second episode. So the flamingos are here. We've pretty much been working in that direction for the rest of the time, but we're now coming back this way. So yeah, so there's a whole gap to fill in here that's got like massive changes to it. And then there is going to be another episode on this, which is basically going to be more of a tour, where I've filled in this huge, great big space here as well. So you'll see that in the next episode. It's not a build episode, that one. It's going to be a tour. It's going to be like a walking tour, because I just did loads of work off camera on that one, and there's loads to see. It's all part of this continuing extension of this new elephant habitat. So without further ado, let's jump into the speed build and I'll meet you there. Okay, so first things first, we definitely needed to address a whole bunch of the rock work. So the rock work wasn't too bad, but pretty simple. I did it all before the faux pieces were available. So I'm starting off here, just putting a few of these faux pieces together. This is a technique I use quite often actually, Planet Zoo, is just to get like a selection of the faux rocks, build yourself like a little set here. So you see that I've kind of picked up a few of the different pieces. I'm changing some of the colours. I'm putting a bit of foliage and a bit of greenery in there just to give it a bit of variety. Building myself a kind of little section. And then you see I've used that as a group that I'm then kind of overlapping. So when you do this, you can kind of get enough of a variety. So there's a couple of places where you see I'm just kind of creating little variations of this. It's so you don't have to do every single piece of rock individually placed. You can just kind of create these little patterns, which you can see it starts to come together. Definitely is an improvement on what I had in there before, which was the kind of terrain rocks and things. So yeah, it looks a bit kind of patterny. All you really want to do in these sorts of situations is just break up some of the patterns, so you can see it starting to just kind of filter apart there and break apart. Next was the floor. So if you remember when that flyover, there was kind of a big sort of puddle in the middle of this, and it didn't really look that great. So I decided what I was going to do was make this all of a sort of more of a kind of muddy floor to this yard. So you can see I've used all the mud pieces there, played around with the colours to get it to sort of blend in as much as I could. Quite happy that it doesn't look like it's exactly the same kind of texture. And then broke it up with a bunch of, some rocks and bits of log and things, all supposed to look like they're kind of sunk a couple of the wallowing pits into that as well. And then I mean, this looks excessive on the piece count, and is pretty excessive, I suppose. But like, I've used these kind of rubble, created myself these little groups of rubble pieces using some of the temple rubble, and then I'm going through and just kind of breaking up some of that floor texture, so it's not just quite so consistently sand. The elephants are really great for that, actually, because a lot of animals will not be able to traverse over that, but because obviously the elephants are so much bigger, they don't have any problem getting over that rubble. There was one of the enrichment items they use is this little, well, it's like the beaver dam basically. I was quite surprised to know that they would actually use this. I've never seen them use it, but I thought, oh, go on then, I'll just sort of incorporate this into it. So created myself a little feature, really just a little focal point, really just supposed to be that there's this little kind of pool here, and then it looks a bit like I've gone in and added a waterfall in there in order to kind of make it look like it's breaking. So you can see I'm adding a couple of the fountain jets and stuff in there, just so you can sort of have that idea of it looking like it's seeping through. Decided I needed to do more on, again, just continuing that kind of roughness, breaking up the floor texture. There's a few people that are really good. If you ever watch Caesar Creates is really good at using the decals and things to break up the ground texture and make it kind of look like dirt a bit more. I'd never really that great at that, to be honest. I think it's because a lot of my habitats have got unlevel ground, and so it ends up being a bit of a challenge. I'm going back now and working down the side, so all the gate system and everything in here is all now really like, I've really improved this, because you see me just pick up one of my sets here. So this is something that's on the workshop at the moment that I've uploaded. That's the like mesh set. So it's like a gate system, fence system in sort of go away green. So I'm using that to block all this new side path in, because what I had in the previous habitat was actually just like I kind of realised no way for the elephants to get in and out, and so you kind of had them in like stuck in the habitat. So a bit of work to add this, make this a bit more realistic. Decided I needed some things to give it extra support, because obviously these are quite thin, and if the elephants were to lean on them, they'd probably just fall down. So quite a lot of effort going into that here. And then the beauty of having these kinds of fence systems is obviously you can just kind of fill good big spaces in quite a lot. As I said in the intro, was really keen to make this feel more like it was a bit more established, a bit more developed, something that was a bit more weathered and all that sort of thing. So actually what I'm doing here is sort of adding a bit of a funneling process. So this is something that I'd seen, I can't remember where I've seen this, but I've seen this in some reference pictures where, in order to make sure that the elephants move, there's generally a bit of an approach now, I think, in zoos to make sure that elephants and keepers don't really come into contact with each other. So generally a bit of a thing that's a process to sort of protect the animal as well as the keeper, to make sure that there's never kind of direct contact between the two animals. Obviously that's not something that exists within Planet Zoo, but I decided to kind of replicate it. So there's a bunch of places in this habitat where I've kind of created these sort of buffers between the walls and the elephant. So you can see it in the background there. There's like a log that runs along the wall here. I wasn't happy with all of the kind of girder work that I had inside here. So all of the things that divided up the two sides of the yard inside, I decided to change. And I wanted this to look really much more realistic, much more like it was something that the animals could be, the keepers could practically interact with the animals through. So all of this is going in that one fell swoop. And I've started on a new sort of fencing system. Decided those troughs need to go. So yeah, extending this. There's quite a lot going on in this actually, in this one, to make sure that it feels a bit more realistic. I decided actually that the stretch of ceiling was probably too big as well, and so this probably needed a bit more of a support. So usually what I end up doing is kind of working on something for a little while and then realizing, get a little idea that I'm like, okay, actually this probably needs some support, for example. So go back and do that. You can see in the background of all of this, actually, I've broken up a lot of the paint textures and things. So I'm using some of the new decal pieces that we've got that I didn't have when I first created this habitat. So you can see like paint stripped off the back of the walls and things. This is all stuff that's like not visible to guests, so it doesn't really matter too much whether the guests see this. Well, they won't see it really at all. So yeah, continue some of these structures. I haven't put this one up on the workshop, but I might actually put this system up on the workshop a little at some point once I've finished using it, or once I've finished building it. So it's kind of a bit of a mixture between the section where the keepers can interact with the animals through, which you'll see more of me doing in a second, and then this more like concrete, stronger divider that separates the two sides of the habitat. So yeah, there's a bit more on that in a second. This mostly ends up being, this section that I'm working on here mostly ends up being for things like where the keepers need to like check their feet and stuff, and to put food through. So I create a little, what I'm doing there is creating a little hatch that I can open. Something that I've been doing actually in a lot more of my habitats is thinking about like just as like little interactive things. Obviously this doesn't really work, it's all just for show, but like, so the idea being that when the keeper needs to put food or something through there, that they can just open and close this little hatch and push some stuff through. There's much more of this. In fact, I've spent quite a lot of time in this habitat working out all of these little places where they can kind of open and close doors. So this is where they might check the feet, for example. I think the inspiration point for this was actually Brooklyn Zoo. I saw a TV show with Brooklyn Zoo on it, and I saw them kind of interacting with the elephants through like a hatch and things. Then there's like a proper big kind of door that they could open and close. Again, this is not for the elephants to come through. This is really just for the keepers. So it tends to be just, I think, the more you can add in these kind of things that break up the textures and make it more interesting. That's generally my style, is just to kind of add clutter and things. Here's some of the weathering going on, so making sure all this concrete that was out here before gets a bit more like wear and tear to it. Turn my focus then to the guest pathing of things. So this is like a bit of a preamble to what's going to appear in the next episode, actually. So this is the continuation of the path down the side of the flamingos, and I spent quite a lot of time trying to work out how I wanted this to happen. I was keen on there to be like a bit of a sort of backstage view of the elephants, but also wanted to be able to get the guests across. That area at the top of the screen there that you can see that goes back towards the car park, you can see it now, is all going to be kind of quarantine and everything, and main loading bays and stuff. So ended up building a bridge, which is what you see me doing now, to get over to this other side of the zoo and other side of the elephant habitat. And then this ended up being ends up sort of evolving into what is supposed to be I guess a more kind of historical part of the zoo. So that's the stuff, some of what you'll see in the next episode. So I do a load of terrain work here, but actually end up changing this a bunch in the next one. So just a couple of little before and afters to end this episode. As I said, do stay tuned for that. Next one, we're going to see this whole area, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff to see. Loads of new details. You'll get to see all of the details of this build, all in that episode, along with all the little. There's a couple of little sneaky previews in this last couple of cinematics, but yeah, it's going to be a good one, that one. So do stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. I'll leave you with the elephant and this last couple of little shots. Really turned out well, I think, this one in the end. But yeah, catch you in the next one. Take it easy. My name is Toves. See you on the next one.